Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we're getting into something that shapes pretty much everything about us: social connection. We usually think of it as, a nice thing to have, something that makes us feel good. But what if it's way more than that? What if it's actually as essential to our survival as food or water? Let's get into the biology behind that feeling. I want to kick things off with a question that really gets to the core of this. Why does loneliness actually feel like hunger? You know, that deep kind of gnawing ache you feel when you're isolated? That's not just in your head. It's a real biological signal, an alarm bell that's been perfected over millions of years. And the science behind it is just wow. So, why do we have this hunger for connection? Well, the answer isn't about what we prefer. It's about our biology. It's a need that is literally hardwired into our DNA. Okay, so here's the big idea. Scientists are now seeing social connection not as just a desire, but as a core biological need. Think about it. Just like your body has signals to tell you you're hungry or thirsty, your brain has this incredibly powerful system to tell you when you need other people. It's a survival mechanism, plain and simple. So why did we evolve like this? Well, for our ancient ancestors, being part of a group wasn't just a nice option. It was literally the difference between life and death. Together, you could hunt bigger animals, you could defend against predators, and you could raise vulnerable kids with a whole community pitching in. In fact, our need to handle these complex social groups is a big reason we even evolved such big brains. We are, and I mean this literally, built to connect. And get this, we have amazing hard evidence for this. There was this incredible fMRI study where they put this idea to the test. First, they had people fast for 10 hours. Then they showed them pictures of delicious food. And just as you'd expect, a specific part of the midbrain, the craving center, lit right up. Okay, then they had the same people isolate themselves for 10 hours and showed them pictures of people having fun together. And what do you think happened? The exact same brain region lit up like a Christmas tree. Your brain craves connection using the very same wiring it uses to crave food. Okay, so that's the science, but what does this actually look like in a human life? To really get the cost of ignoring this biological need, let's turn to a really powerful story from the film The Pear Tree. It's a story about a connection that was lost, not because of some big fight, but just through neglect. The story follows this guy, Mahmoud, a successful writer. When he was young, he had this incredibly deep, important bond with his cousin. But as he got older, life happened. His ambitions took over. He promised he'd stay in touch, but he just drifted. He got wrapped up in his career and politics. And then, years later, he comes back to his childhood home and he's totally blocked creatively, just filled with this massive regret for the relationship he let die. The central image in the film is this old pear tree on his family's land that just hasn't produced any fruit for years. And Mahmoud has this realization that the tree is a perfect symbol for his own life, a life where he let that core connection wither away, leaving him feeling creatively and emotionally empty, just waiting to bear fruit. Now, Mahmoud's story feels so personal, right? But what's kind of scary is that it's also a mirror. His individual tragedy is actually a reflection of a much larger trend happening all around us. We're seeing our social fabric fraying across modern society. I mean, look at the data from books like Robert Putnam's Bowling Alone. Take social trust, the basic belief that most people can be trusted. Back in 1960, more than half of Americans felt that way. But in the decades that followed, that number just plummeted to around 35%. That is a huge drop in the fundamental glue that holds us all together. And the consequences of this are absolutely devastating. This isn't just an idea. It has a real, tragic human cost. Between 2007 and 2018, the suicide rate among young people in the US shot up by a staggering 57%. And researchers keep pointing to social disconnection as a major driver behind that. This is our biology screaming for help. But this is not where the story ends. Because if disconnection is a kind of darkness, then connection is a light. And it's a force so powerful it can cross any distance, survive war, and shine through even the darkest of times. So let's look at a more hopeful story from the novel All the Light We Cannot See. So here we have two young people on totally opposite sides of World War II. There's Marie-Laure, a blind girl in France who learns to see her world through sound and touch. And then there's Werner, a German orphan whose genius with radios gets him pulled into the Nazi war machine. They are living in completely different worlds, separated by this brutal war. In this story, the radio is the key symbol.
Now, unlike Mahmud's barren pear tree, which was a symbol of a real connection that died, the radio represents an invisible one. It's just waves in the air, right? But those waves carry voices and knowledge and hope, a sense of shared humanity that just cuts right through all the chaos of war.
So even though on paper they're supposed to be enemies, their lives become connected through these invisible radio waves. That brief, powerful connection becomes a light for them, an unseen force of humanity that guides them both through the moral darkness of the war, and it ultimately leads to this incredible act of redemption.
So we've seen that our need to connect is as real as our need for food. We've seen the emptiness that comes from letting it wither and the incredible life-saving strength it can provide, even when we can't see it. And that just leaves us with one final thought to take with you. If connection is a light, who in your life helps you see in the dark?